In sports, if you want to be the best, there are no off days.
The Maiden Voyage is setting off. 3 passengers set sail that day. Yes, a 3-hour tour, a 3-hour tour. You didn't know you were signing up for 3 hours, Chris Cato, did you?
I didn't know I was signing up for no days off. What is this? I thought this was a one-day podcast.
Yes, working harder this football season than you had previously planned. Chris Cato, Scott Smith, kicking off this new podcast. We are so happy and excited to finally have this thing come to fruition. It's, of course, no off days, but otherwise known as...
No off. Oh, nodpod.
Nodpod, come on.
We're still working on it. Nodpod.
If you don't know, just look behind you.
That's
it's
the cheat
written
code.
Big block letters. And in the pit box, let's welcome in Brian King, BK, our producer. He is our crew chief, and we have him locked in. Brian, are we feeling good about today's show?
Feeling a little bit antsy, but I'm excited about the show. It's going to be fun.
You're always a little antsy.
Yeah.
That's
Sometimes that does.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, it helps a little nervousness. Helps you perform better when it's game time. So, Brian, I got to say, I didn't know this was going to be on camera. I thought this was just like a record our voice kind of thing. So that's why I wore a T-shirt.
Yeah, TB12 method coming in
that.
strong.
You got to get on our group mail email there, Cato.
Yeah. No, I still managed to put on makeup though. Yeah.
Well, you sleep.
Amazing.
You sleep with makeup on. All right, Brian, we'll check in with you in just a little bit. But coming up on the big show today, we actually, this is a fresh podcast, a new podcast. It still has that new podcast smell, and so why not welcome in a couple other newbies? I mean, this is kind of a seismic change in college football here in the state of Florida. We've got a new radio voice for the Gators. We've got a new radio voice for the Seminoles. So we got Kelley from up in Gainesville, and we got Jeff Culhane from up in Tallahassee. They're going to be our guests. What a cool way to kick off the season.
Especially how their careers kicked off, right? Both had some really memorable first games in the booth on Saturday, so can't wait to talk to them. That's going to be awesome.
Yeah, some heart stoppers, and we're hoping that this is an indication that things are starting to turn, especially up in Tallahassee, because it's been a long ride to get to this point where you're after to a 2-0 start right out of the gates. Very good stuff. Mm-hmm. But it is also week 1 of the NFL season, and there's a lot of predictions, a lot of teams that we think could be in the mix at the very end. I mean, teams like the Bills and of course the Bucs and the Rams could repeat. It's all possible, but we do have some FanDuel odds that came out, so I'm going to just run these by you. You tell me what you think, Chris.
Okay, I'll pretend I haven't looked at these.
So Super Bowl favorite: Bills, Bucs, Chiefs, Rams. This is in that order.
Okay.
And then Packers, Chargers, rounding it out.
All right.
You have any problems with that? You want to reshuffle that deck?
Bills, Bucs.
Bills, Bucs, Chiefs.
Okay.
Rams at 4.
I would really like, given the Bucs kind of offensive line questions, I'm going to drop them a little. Okay. Sorry, Bucs fans, cover your ears. I'd like to slide the Rams up one. And also, where did you say the Packers were?
Packers are coming in at 6.
Okay, I'm going to need them higher. I've got them around 2 or 3 just because I know there's questions about receiver, but it's still Aaron Rodgers, and their defense could be the best in the NFC. I think they need to be a little higher.
Right, who's going to catch those passes from Aaron Rodgers? And then, of course, you got the Chargers kind of rounding out the top echelon of teams.
Yeah.
And they are certainly one of the more exciting teams when you can see what they do offensively, and Justin Herbert looking to make another step. They have matchups for teams, too. They got the Bills beating the Bucs. That is the most likely pick, according to FanDuel. We got Bucs beating the Bills is number 2. Chiefs beating the Bucs, so a repeat of the 2020 Super Bowl.
Okay.
And then either the Bills beating the Rams or beating the Packers coming in. So some of these matchups, I mean, so many things. Injuries, of course, are going to be your number one concern. But week 1, I think we're going to get a little bit of an indication because you're going to have you got Bulls-Rams right out of the gates or Bills-Rams right out of the gates, and it should be some fun ones.
I think I saw the Bills are like a 3.5 point favorite. Some in there, maybe 3 points. It should be a really good one. I mean, this whole first weekend has some really stellar matchups, some fun revenge games built in where you've got Baker Mayfield starting for the Panthers and playing against the Browns.
Oh, little revenge.
Yeah.
I like some of the worst odds, too. Those are always fun to look at. So I'm sorry.
Well, find us value. We want to find some value here. Give us some long shots.
Well, we got some value for sure. Yeah. You want to put $10 in and make 10,000?
That's me. That's my middle name.
There we go. Basically any New York team aside from the Bills, right? So Jets, Giants, any combination thereof versus anybody. Those are going to be your longest odds. So getting no respect, earmuffs for everybody in the Big Apple. We do have individual records that I think are intriguing a little bit. Passing yards leader, they like Justin Herbert. They say he's plus 500. He is the long odds to have the highest passing yard this season.
Mr. Mahomes may have something to say about that.
Mahomes, Brady, Stafford all coming in tied at number 2. When it comes to touchdowns, you got Brady, Herbert, Allen. So a lot of familiar names. How about interceptions?
Picks?
Who would you pick for most picks?
Well, Zach Wilson lit it up with picks last year.
Yeah.
I think he's going to have a better situation, though. Most picks. Let's go Geno Smith in Seattle. How does that sound?
I would like the sound of that, but it's got Justin Fields, it's got Wilson, and it's got Davis Mills.
No, Davis is going to be good.
Houston. Yeah, I think he had a pretty decent rookie year.
Finished strong. In fact, I like the over on the Texans win total. You heard it here first. Their win total is at 4.5. I think they're going to win 5 or 6. They're going to sneak in there and get some.
Okay, very good. All right, we have. Do we have some predictions for the upcoming season? I want to hear something. We know what the Vegas odds makers say, but I'd like to hear some homegrown, organically generated predictions from Chris Cato.
Especially since I'm the only one that saw the Bengals going to the Super Bowl last year. Right? Remember when I sat here on this show and told you in September of last? Oh wait, no, we weren't. We weren't on air then.
Right. No.
I've got a couple for you. Now these aren't really. This isn't mind-blowing, but I think the Eagles are going to not only make the playoffs, but play for the NFC Championship. Are you ready for that?
Oh, wow.
Are you ready for the Eagles? They're loaded. Jalen Hurts is going to have a monster season. He's got weapons all around him now. We're going to have the Eagles playing the Packers for the NFC title. Packers going to win. Packers are going to play the Bills for the Super Bowl.
Okay.
I've got another good one for you here, too. Tua.
Yes.
It's Tua time.
MVP?
No, but he's going to silence the critics. He's set up in a perfect position now.
Yeah.
He's got these weapons, just like he had set up at Alabama, where he's throwing the slant to Judy underneath, and he's going to Ruggs over the top. He's got that now with Waddle and Hill. He's going to, critics, look, I'm the man. He's going to have a great season. I think the Dolphins may have a shot at the playoffs.
Yeah. I think the defense is going to be pretty legit.
Yeah.
So it's going to help, especially with those weapons, the cheetah back there.
How about another unproven quarterback that I think could and will, I'll say it now, will lead his team to the playoffs, Trey Lance. How do you like him?
I do. That is certainly an unknown commodity. So, he's got some weapons there, and I think that could come together as one of the more explosive teams in the NFC, but I got to see the guy do it.
Yeah, I think he will. The Niners are such a well-run organization, right? They see something in him, and now Jimmy G's willing to kind of, stay in an annulment with his ex-wife in a way and stay there in the house and back him up. And they've got a good defense. So I would not be surprised to see the Niners make the playoffs with Trey Lance at the helm.
Okay, I like those. Those are some nice picks. I got some a little bit off the reservation a little bit. I'm gonna go your highest passing yards this year. All right, it wasn't one of the names that we mentioned before. I'm going Derek Carr.
Okay.
I like Derek Carr. I think that offense is intriguing. I think, look, you have somebody other than Hunter Renfrow to throw the ball to.
Exactly.
So Devontae Adams, I think, is going to mix in there real nice.
Yeah.
And along with the Waller, the tight end, I think that this is going to be a pretty fun offense to watch.
Sure.
It's still the toughest division for my money.
Yeah.
Or one of the toughest divisions for my money, but I like Derek.
But to your point, not the toughest defenses to play against. So he could put up some numbers for sure. I like that one. That's a good one.
Okay. Coming in at my second prediction, how about we'll go with a team. Someone that I didn't really have them in my power rankings initially, but the more I think about it, the more I like it. I think the Colts finished tied with the best record in the AFC.
Best record. So we're looking 11 wins, something like that, maybe 12.
I think 12 wins is probably going to get it done. But I think within that division, I think Matt Ryan.
Yeah.
I think Pittman's going to have a great season. And I think defensively they got some guys. So
and you've got Jonathan Taylor.
And you got Jonathan
the
Taylor.
Best weapon
he may
in the league.
lead the league in rushing. Absolutely.
Yeah, I like that one. I think they definitely win that AFC South.
And then finally I got MVP, Lamar Jackson.
Okay.
Even without a contract.
Yeah.
I don't think the contract gets done. I think he goes and he'll be tagged next year, but I think he goes in. he is his own agent, and he will be his best agent during the course of this season as he plays out. I think he's going to have an MVP.
That's actually more motivation, right?
Yeah.
I like that call. I was going to say the same. I'll say Russell Wilson outside shot for MVP as well.
Very good.
Yeah.
You know what the odds are for the old Detroit Lions that were featured on Hard Knocks?
Oh, I don't know, but I'm so cheering for them now after watching Hard Knocks. How can you not root for Coach Campbell and the Lions?
Plus 410 to make the playoffs. So still long shots. I mean, they like the Vikings. They like the Packers out of that division, of course, but they're kind of right there on the lower bottom with the Bears. Dan Campbell, though, he's made a fan out of me.
Yeah, really.
He's a gladiator. And I mean like in American Gladiator sense. Like he's Gemini. He's Nitro.
He could still strap it on, I think. Who do you think wins a fight between him and Mike Vrabel? How does that go?
Oh, that is good.
That's a good one, right?
Well, I think we got a height advantage for Campbell.
Mm-hmm. Vrabel a reach advantage, though. I mean, I think some length.
Vrabel's been out. I think he just seems like he's been out of the game a little too long.
Yeah.
And so he doesn't have the that peak fitness level that I think Campbell has stayed at. I think he's stayed revved in the red line.
He's revved for sure. We saw him doing the up downs with the team there. That was a good Hard Knocks. It really was.
Yeah.
I think you mentioned I don't know MVP, but I think Jared Goff I think he's set up for a really good season.
Yeah, I mean, they have some more pieces offensively, whether or not they all are healthy and ready to go. But, Amon-Ra, St. Brown,
looks
I
awesome.
think he's one of those guys. I think the run game could help balance things out a little bit for Goff this year, but I think it's a prove-it year for him.
Yeah.
That's the one thing about Hard Knocks is it kind of makes you a fan of the team that you watch as you go in, and there's characters that have been made. I love the linebacker out of Oklahoma State, Rodrigo.
I love the boots and the hat and jeans he put on after he found out he made the team. He goes and puts on his rodeo gear. That was awesome.
Best and worst of college football, Chris Cato. We had some dynamite games in the official week 1 of the college football slate, but and still questions too. What do we know of Ohio State at this point?
I'll tell you what I know and why I would be very encouraged if I'm a Buckeye fan. I think they have a defense. Like, that's been their weak point over the last few seasons where, yes, they were one of the most elite teams in college football, but just couldn't put it together defensively, and that cost them when they played big games. But I think we saw instantly the Jim Knowles impact against Notre Dame. I think we're going to learn that Notre Dame has a pretty good offense, and the Buckeyes were just playing much better on the defensive side of the ball. So even though the offensive numbers might not have been what we thought they would be with C.J. Stroud and all those weapons, I think I would feel pretty good about Ohio State now after seeing their defense.
Yeah, I think this Notre Dame defense, it could end up being legit. I think that it's going to be a slog offensively for them a little bit this year, but I do like the pieces for Ohio State. I don't think there's any panic. I think you had some penalty issues. Yeah. I mean, a lot of this stuff is you're amped up for a first game of the season, and you're not going to play clean football.
Yeah.
I mean, we saw that up and down all these games. I mean, very few teams are that honed in right out of the gates. You've been
unless you're Georgia.
And the question is, was it a contest?
I don't know, man, but that's one thing that, Georgia is who we thought actually, they're not who we thought they were. I had some questions given all they had lost to the NFL, but man, I mean, I do think that Oregon wasn't as good as we thought they would be, but still, Georgia had their way with the Ducks offensively, and then defensively had freshmen playing in key slots and didn't miss a beat. Like, that was impressive from the Bulldogs there.
Okay.
The best games of the weekend, though, were the two that featured two of the marquee programs in the state of Florida, right? The Florida State game and the Florida-Utah game. That was drama and then some.
My goodness. I mean, these things came down to the end. They didn't have to be that close down the end.
Right.
But I think Utah is
They're legit.
They're a very good team. And one of the things that I think that was a little bit underrated about what Florida did to them was how effectively they ran the ball in the Utes.
They did.
Utah had they had one of the best run defenses in the country last year, certainly best in the Pac-12. And between Richardson and the rest of the slew of running backs, they had their way.
Yeah, who was the running back? Montrell. They brought over with Billy Napier. We can talk to Sean Kelley about this later. Brought him over from Louisiana, and he tore it up. So I agree. Like, I was surprised that Florida was able to be more physical than Utah at the line of scrimmage. I felt, Gator fans, close your ears. I felt like Utah should have won. I feel like they obviously turned the ball over on the goal line twice there. I feel like Utah should have won, but Florida made the plays when they had to. In the other game, I felt like Florida State was by far better than LSU, but LSU just kept hanging around, and then Florida State tries to give it to them at the end and then finds a way to take it back. So, two incredible games there.
Okay. Well, we have some big games this week too, and you start there with Florida because they got a big one against Kentucky. Kentucky jumping into the top 25.
How cool is it that we get a game of this importance that will probably determine who wins the SEC East or who challenges Georgia, I should say, with Kentucky, a very physical team, and now Florida. Kentucky's got to go into the swamp, which we just saw how hostile that is. Before the Utah game, I was leaning Kentucky on this, but after seeing Anthony Richardson is the real deal, I'm kind of leaning Gators now.
Well, let's find out what these Gators are all about. What do you think, Chris?
I feel very honored and fortunate that we have the new voice of the Florida Gators on with us today, Mr. Sean Kelley.
Welcome in, Sean Kelley, the new voice of the Gators. Now they have jumped up from unranked to 12th in the nation. It's your magic touch, the Midas touch, that Mr. Kelley has brought to this team. What did you learn about these Gators?
Hi, guys. I learned a little bit. I knew that I think they were better than most folks expected. I'm not sure that I thought they'd be able to have the poise to finish a game against a great Utah team. And I'm a little surprised to go from unranked to 12. That seems to be a bit of a large jump in my eyes. I kind of figured they'd come in around 19.
That's what we do on week one, right? Overreaction.
Yeah.
Because we all know and we all have the answers, right? So I know this. Anthony Richardson's the real deal. I know that offensive line is very good. I know there's still questions about Florida's defense, especially up front. And I say that only because I need to see more work, and I need to be able to gauge it against something other than a very good Utah front five, and, of course, those two dynamite tight ends that the Utes have. So Billy Napier's got this thing going in the right direction. Big ships take a long time to turn, so let's not throw everything at game one just yet, but certainly you couldn't have asked for a better start, and for me personally, an easier game to call.
Richardson is one of those guys that you saw the athleticism from day one he stepped on campus, and it was just a matter of putting him in the right opportunities and just letting him fly, so to speak. And I feel like we saw that distinctly here against the Utes this last week. 298 rushing yards against the team that led the Pac-12 in rush defense last year. How does Richardson change everything?
Well, let's just start with the man himself. He's healthy, and I think that's a big plus for him. This guy's been banged up basically since high school, was banged up most of last year and sharing that job with Emory. So obviously full health is good. And then a full off season under Billy Napier. This system suits him in that he's not asked to do a tremendous amount in the passing game. He does have the great arm, and he can make all the throws. But, man, he's such a weapon with his feet. And at 6'4", 6'5", about 235, 237 pounds, he's hard to bring down. So he's a problem, a real problem. And in Napier's system, as we saw this past weekend, if they can keep Anthony to maybe one, possibly two reads on a certain play, he's heading for success. He's allowed to do less up here and more with that God-given talent that he's got. So, and as we saw in the 2-point conversion, Billy Napier told us on Monday night on Gator Talk that he was kicking himself that he had made the wrong play call, but thank goodness he had an Anthony Richardson who made that a sensational play, and they were able to convert and get two very large points in what turned out to be a one-score game.
He really did. That was quite the Houdini act he pulled there. He reminds me almost of like a stronger Vince Young, if that's possible. Just such a special athlete. Sean, it's clear that Billy Napier is putting his stamp on this team. I mean, this Florida team just seemed more physical than I think a lot of us expected along the offensive line. Scott mentioned the rushing yards against a very stout Utah team. And Billy also was showing he's not afraid to play freshmen. They had a lot of guys step in and have some big roles there. I know that, you can't really get off to a better start than this, but do you see a difference already in just kind of what he's bringing to this team in terms of physicality?
Yeah, I do. And I saw a difference even just from the start of training camp to the first game. And, this process has been ongoing since December, but I don't get here until August 1st. So I can only really truly evaluate what I saw during training camp. And that was a team that seemed to kind of have a renewed sense of purpose and kind of started to get the idea that not only if you play together, but you play in a disciplined way, you eliminate some things that perhaps would set you back or allow you to be more into a situation if you have a lack of depth or a certain lack of talent in certain positions. Because that's the case with the Gators right now, and Billy Napier's got work to do in recruiting. But I kind of believe that the offensive line would do well. A number of guys returning. They put up nice numbers last year. And then Osiris Torrance comes from the University of Louisiana with Napier in a sense, and he's slotted in there and is the starter on that offensive line. So that's a very good unit. I think they've been physical all along, but I think in this sense, they're able to put it all together. And the other thing I thought, there was a very significant play in the ball game that kind of speaks to this discipline and wanting to kind of get away from shooting yourself in the foot, per se. There was a timeout called. Utah had a decision to make, 4th and short. They appeared to be ready to go for it in the red zone. And when they came out of that timeout, you kind of felt maybe they're going to try a field goal here. And sure enough, their quarterback goes into the hard count. He cannot draw them off sides, and then they have to settle for one of those 2 first-half field goals. That play in itself right there, I think, in some ways, describes some of the change that we're already seeing under Billy Napier.
When I listen to Billy Napier talk, I don't know if it's just me, but he's got some Saban in him. I mean, his cadence, I don't know if it's the Southern draw, but and I know obviously he worked under him. I'm sure that stuff kind of rubs off a little bit, but even his demeanor. Do you see that, Sean?
I do. And, part of me wants to say, it's Saban-like because he's never too high or never too low. Well, I've seen Nick Saban lose it on a sideline before. That's kind of Napier's thing. It's a very cerebral. The word I like about Napier right now is deliberate. It seems like whenever he's talking with his team or he's on the sideline, there's a very deliberate feel to Billy Napier. And it's playing well right now with his team. And I think it'll serve him well long term. And that's certainly what I saw when he was at the University of Louisiana.
You know what I think helps too is having a staff the size of those that we see at Alabama and Clemson. Now he did a very, very wise thing, I believe, in taking that Florida job. He could have asked for the $8.5–9 million payday that some of these new coaches are getting at these major programs. He said, no, I'll take my $7 million. I think I can live on $7 million, but let's take this other money and spread it out and get some assistance, get some a staff built here. And I think those things show up on game day too, right?
Yeah, I do as well. I think there's 2 things that I think about really when you start talking size of staff here. The first thing is kind of Saban-like in that Napier's goal with this program is to eliminate as much gray areas as possible. It's either black or white when it comes to most every situation that would face a football program. So if you can have a large enough staff to where you can be extremely specific with each staff member's job description, that helps. And the only way to do that is have enough people to where, all right, Bill, this is your job. That's it. I only want you to worry about this. The other facet of this large staff is that when it comes to culture, or as he calls it, attitude and everything else, is that he really wanted a large enough staff to where it would be diverse in a way that really every player would have the ability to find someone that looks like them, sounds like them, is from their same neck of the woods, had a path that they admire. And so therefore you get some, small mentorship relationships going, that there's somebody that they feel comfortable with or can talk to in a lot of ways. Can't do that with a smaller staff. That's the second piece of why I think he went after, the large team picture as we saw.
And the recruiting game is all about relationships. I'm curious, Sean, when they lured you to Gainesville, did they throw out the red carpet with the recruiting? Were you swayed by the facilities? What was it that did you in?
What did me in was a couple of things. One, I love every point in my career when I've been affiliated with a team or a program, and I love being a part of a community. And so check both of those boxes. But the way that Billy Napier is, Scott Strickland above him, there was such a feel and energy on this campus. And I think I I fell for, or I fell in line with kind of the vision as to what they're going with here. And look, I know all things are cyclical and they'll change, and I'm not going to give Florida 33 years like Mick Hubert did, but I plan on being here a long time. And with that being said, maybe Scott Strickland won't be, and maybe Billy Napier won't be for a variety of reasons. But I looked at Florida and the direction they're heading, the kind of people they have here in Gainesville. And then, at the end of the day, if I were to make a short list of the top brands in college athletics, Florida's there. And I'm talking about like a list of 3, 4, 5. And so a national brand with an obvious commitment to winning, but also doing it the right way. So all those things fit. And sometimes, and not to get too spiritual, sometimes we pray about doors being opened where they're supposed to be open and doors being closed, in that manner. It felt like in some ways the doors are being blown off the hinges during this whole process during the summer. So at some point you kind of have to look up and go, all right, I hear you. I get it. This is where I'm supposed to be. And
well, you can get spiritual anytime here on the Nod
There's
Pod.
no such thing as being too spiritual on the Nod Pod. So you're following in the steps of obviously a legend. You mentioned 33 years for Mick. What's that like? I mean, does that come into play? Is it a little bit imposing when you step behind the mic for the first time to call a game, or does that just kind of disappear?
It's only imposing in the sense that you don't want to screw it up. I mean, you've had a guy here for 33 years, David Steele before him, and I know David well from my days in the NBA. These gentlemen built basically the foundation that I'm going to stand on here for a while, and that's the quality of the broadcast, the relationship with this school and these teams, their fans, and then obviously what they were able to do in big moments. And so in that sense, it can be a little imposing. I think I'm more prepared now at my age and in this point in my career to step in and be just fine with that and kind of go against everything everyone told me about, don't be the guy that follows the legend, be the guy that follows the guy. But, look, I'm just very appreciative of what those guys did in the role that I now currently have. And I'm just here to try and, keep it going in my own way.
Sean, I know touchdown calls are important. I came up with a short list. You can take what you want, kind of chew the meat, spit out the bones. All right, here we go. It's a feeding frenzy. What do you think?
No. I'll note it,
okay.
And we'll see if it
How about this one?
Yeah.
That's cold-blooded. Get it? Because the Gators.
It's funny because I have kind of used that before.
All right. With
regard to an NBA player. Now maybe it fits even better, as you said, because of the
I think he's interested in that one.
Hang on, I got two more. Grab a buddy, because that's a tutty. That's more kind of Gronk inspired. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. I'll kind of leave that to you, I think.
All right. And my last suggestion. Oh my. Just adding a few more my's to the end.
It's funny that you bring that up because I have been asked whether I would do an oh my, in homage to McHugh.
Right.
Yeah, I don't see why that couldn't be slid in there at some point. And I get a lot of, hey, what's your signature phrase or going to be? I don't really have one. That's kind of not my style. But there'll be things I'm sure you'll say. I've heard Sean say that before.
I kind of like that you don't have, you don't feel pressure to have a go-to like Scott does here.
Yes. Well, the fact that you rejected all of those makes me think that the Gators are in really good hands.
I took them under advisement. Some I like more than others.
He hasn't completely rejected it. I want to say that, I feel good about this because, Sean, you're our first guest on our first installment of No Off Days, or the Nod Pod, as the kids will be calling it, and you were on the first call for Billy Napier's debut, so we can only have success, right? This is a good thing. This is a blessing from Sean to us, I think,
Well, much like Billy Napier and the Gators, who gifted me the great game to call in my first time out with the Florida Gators, I would say that I feel the same way about our first visit here.
Very good. He is Sean Kelley, and you get to look forward to maybe not 33 years, but a long time behind the mic up there in Gainesville.
And a big game on Saturday in the Swamp again.
We got those Wildcats. All right. Thank you, Sean Kelley, for your time. Appreciate it.
Yep. Guys.
That was fun.
He's good.
Yeah, he spent some time at ESPN. He's called a lot of big games. I got to think that, though, jumping into college football as kind of full focus, I mean, I know we're biased. We love college football.
Big time bias,
but the electricity that comes from being
exciting. Now,
is
that not our maybe it's just me, but was that not one of your fantasies? I know you had many. You're a fantastical man, but one of the fantasies is to be the play-by-play voice for your team, right? I mean, I can't tell you how I've thought about.
Well, I'm a bumbling fool, so I never really.
You had those great.
I didn't have the confidence.
You had those great touchdown calls there, though. The my. Oh.
How many my's get us out of copyright?
Oh my goodness, is what I thought.
All right, it's time for our second guest, and this was in no particular order, as we of course have no bias on the No Off Days podcast. But we're going up to Tallahassee to welcome in the new voice of the Seminoles, Jeff Culhane.
There he is.
Welcome on in. Thank you for standing by. So I know that there's a rivalry between the two schools. Do you feel a rivalry with Sean down the road from you in Gainesville?
Guys, great to talk to you. Yeah, just pure hatred.
There we go. We should have put you in the on the same screen.
Right.
Like
they can't be in the same room together.
I tell you, Sean and I, we spoke a few times before we got to our respective schools, and it's been fun to follow his career. He's a tremendous person, tremendous broadcaster, and I look forward to getting to know him and to see these rivalry games up close and personal for years to come.
You talk about great calls.
My goodness.
The block PAT, my man, you did it well. Fire up the war chant and plant the spear.
Yeah.
I was fired up.
I was too.
So fired up. William Floyd didn't let you talk, but I was fired up too. Everybody was screaming.
Mike Norvell, you have your signature win. That was a great call. I've listened to that one several times. Some of these questions will sound a lot like the ones we just asked Sean because you guys both called for your first game. He's incredible.
Well, he's game number 2, Duquesne. Let's not forget about
that's right. I'm sorry. I'm looking past
the
Duquesne game. I'm sorry. You did have a nice warm-up with Duquesne there, Jeff. But, yeah, what? That was okay. Is it fair to say that was your first tense game where none of us knew what was going to happen, right? And both teams are kind of trying to give it away at the end, and then, oh my goodness, LSU muffs the punt again, and then Florida State is trying to salt it away and fumbles the ball. And what's going through your mind in those moments? Are you just kind of like the rest of us, like a fan, just kind of, I got to wait and see what happens here? Or are you also kind of, is your heart breaking a little because you see this thing getting away from the Seminoles?
Yeah, it was just a game that was filled with a lot of surprises, a lot of twists and turns, right? A lot of shock. It was a roller coaster, man. I mean, it feels like is ready to push this thing in the late quarter, put a stranglehold on this contest. And guys, we're up way up high in the Superdome. I'm sure you guys have been there before, in the Bucs and Super Bowls and all of those things. I feel like I can kiss the sky way up there, And so when muff punt occurred, Malik Neighbors fumbled his second punt of the night, and Florida State recovered. Right below us, the 600 level, LSU fans, man, it was like they're getting off the ship. They were scurrying for the exits. And just a few moments later, there's the fumble. And you're thinking, all right, 99 yards, Jake Daniels and company. And just like that, they're down the field, and they're at the 1-yard line. You get the long review. It took 45 minutes to figure out the inbounds, the out of bounds. What are we doing here? And it was wild. Yeah, it was one of the more bizarre games I've ever been a part of.
A lot of people got to brush up on their first down, stopping the clock, how much time is on the clock scenarios with that knee down.
I felt like in all these games over the weekend, these referees had, I don't know if they had, taken the whole offseason off and not studied some of the reviews and rule books.
Yeah.
That was tense. Oh, man, it's so exciting, such an exciting time for Mike Norvell, though, and you're stepping into this, Jeff. I was really impressed by some of the new faces they have in place now. You had the guy who blocked a couple of kicks maybe, but then this transfer, Jared Verse from Albany. Like, he's from Albany. Where does this guy come from? He's a monster on the defensive end. Tell us about him.
Yeah, this is a young man, ironically enough, that I saw at my previous stop in Fargo, North Dakota, in the Fargo Dome. North Dakota State opened last season versus UAlbany, and he came in with obviously a lot of fanfare then. Hit the transfer portal and a ton of expectation, trying to replace guys like Jermaine Johnson, the first-round draft pick of the New York Jets, and Keir Thomas, an undrafted free agent, made the roster for the Los Angeles Rams. So Jared Verse, the next man up, I suppose you could say, along the defensive line, along the edge there, and you're not sure if you can fill the shoes of a guy like Jermaine Johnson with what he did a year ago as ACC Defensive Player of the Year. But I'll tell you what, guys, Junior Burse is off to a fantastic start. He had a huge impact in the game in so many ways on Sunday night against LSU, and lots of field goals, 2 sacks, 2.5 PFLs. You know, the young man out of Dayton, Ohio, making his way to Tallahassee, Florida. He has been as good as advertised and some.
Jeff, I got to ask you about the vibes at the Superdome, because that's obviously for opposing crowds, whether NFL or in college. It's an imposing venue. What was it like there? I mean, what was the representation of Seminole fans? What the pendulum swings there at the end? What were the feels from the stadium?
Look, I'll tell you, before Sunday, before game day, it was Florida State fans taking over the court.
Really?
And I think LSU fans, the majority of them, since it's just an hour down the road to the west along I-10, I think the majority of them made their way to Urban Street and to the city day of games. They rolled in Sunday in full force. When they got there, they were there. You knew LSU fans were around and were going to be part of this thing. But, man, I'll tell you what, there was garnet and gold splashed all over Bourbon Street, all over the quarter. And Florida State fans represented very, very well for about 3-4 days down in the Crescent City. In the venue on Sunday night, I would say you could say 60-40, 55-45.
Really?
I mean,
Yeah.
Florida State
They
sold out their
represented.
allotment of 30,000 tickets immediately. It probably had a few more in there after that. The capacity of the Superdome, 68,000 after some renovations recently, and it was pretty close. It was a bowl game, college football playoff kind of atmosphere.
Much like we asked Sean, who takes over for a legend in the broadcast booth with Mick Hubert departing, you're taking over for Gene Deckerhoff, who's been, 40-plus years. He is synonymous with Seminole football, much like how he and Bowden kind of grew up together, and it's imposing. I know that it's difficult to step into a situation when everybody is so accustomed to a certain voice, a certain personality, but you get this amazing opportunity. What have the last couple of months been like for you? How have you been embraced by Seminole fans and life in Tallahassee? Probably a little different than North Dakota.
Yeah, I would echo a lot of things Sean said, guys, when he asked him that same question. I think the biggest thing is you don't want to come in and stumble over yourself and mess this thing up because, look, there's an expectation not only of the fan base, but to me there's an expectation of Gene Deckerhoff. I mean, this is Gene Deckerhoff's broadcast booth, and he's listening, and he's paying attention. And you want to step into those shoes and step into that booth and hit the ground running and make it sound like you've been around for 10 years and not for 2 weeks with the headsets on. And I'll tell you what, everyone here has been amazing. They have been so welcoming. Folks here at Florida State, fans, social media, they didn't have to be. I mean, they didn't have to welcome us in, my family and I, in the way that they have. They could have waited to see, hey, is this guy, how's he going to sound during a game? Are we going to, chew him up and spit him out right away? Because change is hard. I mean, Gene Deckerhoff, 48 years calling Florida State men's basketball, 53 years calling Seminole football, and soundtrack for the Bowden era and all the national championships, right? So change is tough. I joke with Gene, and he's been amazing to me. It's no shock to anyone. I'm sure you guys know him very well. He and his wife, Ann, have been fantastic to my family and I. Guys, they brought over a card table, folding chairs, and a rocking chair to our house in Tallahassee because our stuff still hadn't shown up.
There you go.
They furnished it for you.
The welcoming committee, the Deckerhoffs.
Yeah.
Hey.
And so, they've been fantastic. And the big thing is that everybody has been great. We've tried to bring ourselves in the community as much as we possibly can, and looking forward to continue to do that here as well. But I was saying, but I joke with Gene. Gene, you could have done like 50 or 20 years as a voice, and not 50, for goodness sakes. I mean, make it easy on the neck.
Yeah,
Gene's travel schedule was like epic. Okay, like calling Bucks games, calling Seminole games, the flights overnight. I mean, and he's up there in years, and I was always in awe of his ability to still do it at a high level, and then all the travel that goes into it.
And he was doing basketball games too, right?
Right, but during the football season, having to bounce on a Saturday night from some road game to wherever the Bucks are playing. I mean, it's incredible. The man, he certainly's got a young spirit, and he will be missed. Did he shoot you a text, though, at least after one of these last games? I don't know if he's big on text. Does Gene text?
Oh, yeah, he's been awesome. I mean, he and I have texted back and forth. He's provided guidance. He's provided, things that have worked for him. He shot me his spring game, his final football broadcast, his spring game broadcast charts that he used my way to help me get acclimated with some of our personnel early on in the summertime. And he texted me good luck before our first coaches show. He and his son Dennis showed up at the second coaches show, and we had dinner and a cold beverage together afterwards. And then he was listening on Sunday night. We gave him a shout out on the air, and he texted it right back immediately after we gave him a nod, and texted some very kind things our way to myself and to Bar None and Tom Block, our broadcast team, following the end of that game and that broadcast, which was just a blast to be part of.
G might have had a little regret the way that one ended, not being on the
I
call for
retired
that
the game
one.
too soon.
Yeah. Hopefully he doesn't pull a Tom Brady on you and come out of retirement. Well, Jeff, you're off to a great start. I want to touch on one thing. You mentioned your time in Fargo at North Dakota State. What a great program. And I'm kind of asking this out of selfishness because I want you to provide me with some testimony here, some evidence. Earlier we were giving our NFL predictions for the season, and I said Trey Lance will lead the 49ers to the playoffs. Tell us about him, what you saw out of him, and what you think the 49ers see in him.
Well, a tremendous person, number one, who comes from a great family. His father, Carlton, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, grew up in Florida and grew up a Seminole fan, if I'm remembering correctly, during the recruiting process, and played college football at Southwest Minnesota State in Marshall, Minnesota. That's where he met his wife Angie, and the Lance family came together and was born. And my connection and my relationship with Trey Lance was an absolute joy. Continues to be, staying connected with his family and being able to watch what he's doing in San Francisco. And I just think he checks all the boxes, guys. I know there's a lot of people out there that are talking about this, that, and the other. It's a little bit unique, I feel like, with Jimmy Garoppolo sticking around San Francisco and how that whole process has shaken out. But Trey Lance checks all the boxes physically. I think he's one of the most gifted quarterbacks I've ever been around, whether close to broadcasting the team or just watching on television. I think he's got the athleticism, the strength, the arm strength, and all of those tangibles. I think he also has all of the intangibles as well. He's going to prepare. He's going to get in the film room. He's going to be a leader. He does everything you need out of quarterback position. Now, how does that translate over as a full-time starter into the National Football League? I would agree with you. Because of what he does and how he does it, I think Trey Lance is going to have a tremendous career and going to hit the ground running and help lead the 49ers to being a team that's right there to the top of the NFC.
For all the reasons that Jeff just stated, that's why I drafted him as my backup quarterback in the fantasy league. Fantasy news. Jeff, I won't bore you with all of that, but thank you so much for your time. We wish you the best of luck. A long ride up in Tallahassee. We hope that it's a great season for the Noles up there, and it's been fun to listen to you in your short time so far with this team and the pizzazz you bring to the booth. So it'll be fun for the season ahead, and thank you so much for taking a little time on the nodpod.
Guys, I appreciate you. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you, Jeff.
Go Noles.
Jeff Culhane, FSU radio voice. I was hoping that we could get both those gentlemen in, Sean and Jeff, and maybe get a cage match. You think?
I feel like I was worried that Jeff would see our color scheme here for the nod, and it's kind of, it's
not, no. It's
okay.
red.
I know.
This is a red outline. It's America.
But he could, he could misinterpret it, what we're doing there. So I'm glad he didn't go that route. The Noles have Louisville on Saturday, and, that could be, Louisville just got pounded by Syracuse, but that's one of those where you wonder if the emotion of that win over LSU will, be hard to kind of get the Noles back up for that game. It'll be a good test.
It's been an emotional ride for Brian King in the pit box. Brian, let's bring you back in. Before we say goodbye to everybody, we got a little fun little game that we want to play, and this is our stat story and stumper, and you've been putting in a lot of hard work to come up with these three things. We got a stat, we got a story, and you got a stumper for us, and we get to react. So without further ado, let's cue it up, BK.
Well, the story, and great job with those interviews. Weren't those guys great? Sean and Jeff, I mean,
That was
holy
easy.
Cow.
Yeah.
That was easy.
They both have
okay,
silky
story
pipes.
part.
Silky.
Don't they, though?
Yeah.
They do. Well,
Except
anyways.
Jeff out like this. It was, but he hung on, and we got him in.
Well, good thing we're all lip readers. I don't know about our audio audience.
It worked out. It worked out. Story part is kind of a fringe thing. The Michael Jordan jersey from Game 1 of the NBA Finals back in '98, the Last Dance Finals.
Yeah.
Going up for auction. Going up for auction this week.
Ooh.
$3 to $5 million. They think that's going to fetch. I
That's
want to
it?
know what is the most. That's it. I know you think it'd be more, but that was his last championship. His last dance. What is the most valuable, either personal or monetarily, sports memorabilia that you two each have?
That we
Yeah, we have.
Well, wait, you just bought that TB12 shirt.
I got this TB12 shirt.
That had to be a 35, right?
This was $27.
Yeah.
I got it at a kiosk in the mall.
Oh man.
So it's authentic.
I don't have. I don't have.
Come
I'm
on,
not
you
cool.
gotta
I
have
don't have
something.
a great man cave. And I've got this 1958 Topps Mickey Mantle. Okay, 1958
Where
Topps
do you
Mickey
keep it?
Mantle.
Where do you keep it?
It's at my parents' home in my childhood bedroom in a shoebox. Very, very secure. But it's a little dog-eared, corners. I haven't had it appraised, but I'm thinking, I think I might have to, after this podcast thing doesn't work out, might have to sell it.
That's your new 401k.
That's it.
Yeah, I got some old card. I think the guy's name is Honus.
No, yeah,
Honest.
okay.
I got
You
that.
got the Honus Wagner. Okay.
I don't have anything of value, and
Come
but
on.
the things that I have are valuable to me. Okay, so I got some signed
Right.
baseball cards. I have a signed baseball card. When I was young, I admired Mark McGuire.
Yeah, me too.
This was before I
that was
realized
my favorite player.
I realized that he was bigger than the normal person for a reason. But I still admire Mark McGuire.
So funny
But
you said
I
that.
waited in line. I waited in line at a local high school. I grew up in the Northern California, the Bay Area, so we went to a lot of A's games growing up. And waited in line for, it felt like 8 hours.
Yeah.
And finally was there, took a picture with Mark McGuire as a young lad. I think that picture has been since deleted, but I still have the signed baseball card, and so that means a lot to me. But
That's pretty cool.
nothing of value, nothing from anybody else.
That's pretty cool.
BK,
though.
you got
Sentimental
anything?
value, so that's good.
You got anything, bro?
Got a piece of the Daytona track when they repaved it.
Okay.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that is.
I don't know what value that is.
You dig that out with your own jackhammer?
I went there one night, broke it. Nah,
Was this-
It's always
people
better
at
with a
Daytona
story.
Games. Yes, it is. What's the next part? Stat and
Yeah, give
and
us a good
stump?
stat.
Is that what it is? All right.
Yeah. Story,
Let's
stat,
we'll
stump.
combine these two.
Okay.
This is one of my favorite all-time stats, and it's kind of timely here with Week 1 NFL cranking up. Jerry Rice, he holds the record for most yards receiving after the age of 40. He's got I think 2,500 yards receiving after the age of 40.
Nice.
Can you tell me who's number 2 on that list?
After the
Receiving
age of
yards
40.
in NFL after the age of 40. This is when maybe we should have
Jeez,
some
that's a
music.
tough one. Did Terrell Owens play until he was 40?
I
Terrell
don't.
Owens played till he's 39.
Yeah.
Oh, he could have still been doing it.
After the age of 40.
What? He's tricking it. This is
I
going to be
think
some,
I think it's a non-receiver.
It's going to be like Hank Stram or someone like
Is
that.
Is it? No, it's not. Adrian Peterson wouldn't be. Is it Tom Brady?
It is Tom Brady.
Oh,
It is
look at
Tom
that.
Brady.
Look at that.
2018, he caught a pass from Julian Edelman in a game against the Titans.
Yeah.
And that was
Yeah.
the season following the drop pass in the Super Bowl against
Right.
the Eagles.
Yeah.
So Tom Brady, so he'll be 45 oldest
Any
player in
question
the
that
NFL.
starts with who was the oldest, the first place we should go is Tom Brady.
Exactly. Yeah.
Exactly.
Brian, because Scott got that right, you have to give him your piece of the Daytona track. That's his prize.
Okay, I can do that.
I want a piece of your
can do
driveway.
that.
Better yet, I'm gonna come chisel out a piece of your
All right.
driveway.
All right, what's the third part of this? Story, stat, stump.
I think you
Oh,
said they combined it last.
Well,
that
you already
was kinda,
stumped
I
us.
thought I'd stump you.
Oh, but
I
you
can give you
didn't.
something else. I can give you something else.
Yeah.
Brady's
That's a
oldest player in the
freebie.
NFL. This is a freebie. Who's the second oldest player in the NFL currently?
Oh, that would be Oh.
And it's kind of timely for this week.
Oh, Peters.
Is it
There
Jason
you go.
Peters?
Yeah.
There you go.
Dallas
So we're even.
Cowboys.
Jason Peters, 40
Dallas
years
Cowboys offensive line is kind of in the same shape the Bucs offensive line is right now. Kind of piecing it together.
Right.
Yeah. Jason Peters.
But
good
Jason
one.
Peters,
I don't
yeah.
know. At 40 years old, playing offensive tackle in the league.
Yeah.
When you got to try to keep. I mean, I don't think he's going to play.
Who could? Okay, if they had to switch roles, who has a better shot at being effective? Brady as an offensive lineman or Peters as a quarterback?
Well, Peters ain't evading anybody, but nobody's going to be able to sack him. So I'm going to go Peters at quarterback.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was good, Brian.
Very good. All right.
Hey, thanks a lot, guys.
That is our stat, our stumper, and our story. My favorite of those, of course, was the one that I got right, which is the stat. So,
Yeah.
all right. That was a lot of fun. We did it. We brought in the new voices of some of the in-state programs here, talked a little football, talked a little NFL. That is podcast number 1, and it's in the books.
We're going to have trouble topping this. We should just probably quit with this one.
No, this is a one-time deal. All right, to watch full-length episode podcasts, you can, of course, and if you want to see the piercing blue eyes of one Chris Cato, you go to fox13news.com/nodpod, see the video versions. You can subscribe on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher. You can get the audio link every week sent straight to your phone, and of course, you can find the show page on all the socials.
Yes, and my eyes are green, so thank you for noticing.
That's how closely I'm looking. On behalf of Chris Cato, Brian King in the booth, and the rest of the crew, I'm Scott Smith, and until next time, there are no off days.